It is November 30th, 2013. We have the pleasure of being with Margaret Barkley, who would like to share some of her experiences about growing up in Europe during the 30s and 40s. Grandma, Margaret, thank you very much for allowing us and taking the time to share a little bit of your life. Can you tell us a little bit, can you tell us, number one, when you were born? What is your birth date?
July 16, 1920.
And that would make you today how old?
Ancient. Okay, I'm going to be 93.
Amen. Where were you born?
Beuthen, Oberschlesien. It was on the Polish border, but on the German side where I was born.
And what were your parents' names?
My mom is Helene, we called Alina. My father was Marcus, they called him Max.
And where were they from?
They came from Pleschen.
And Pleschen was Germany, or is Germany?
I really don't know, but 1920 when they became Germans.
So in the 20s they came to Germany, to Oberschlesien.
Maybe they were always Germans, but where they were born, it was on the Polish side.
Got it. What languages did your family speak at home?
Pardon me?
What language did they speak at home?
German. We kids, only German. My parents were in business, so they talk Polish and Yiddish.
And German.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your brothers and sisters?
Pardon me?
Your brothers and sisters.
My brother, his name was Armin, A-R-M-I-N.
And he resides now in Naples, Florida.
Yeah, but he came 1939 with the last children transport from England. They went to England.
And tell us about your sister.
My sister went together with my parents to the concentration camp. And my little brother's out there.
So you had how many brothers and how many sisters? You had two brothers?
We were two and two, yeah.
2 boys, 2 girls.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about growing up, where you went to school, your day school.
We went to, they had in Beuthen, Oberschlesien, eine jüdische Schule. A
Jewish school.
A Jewish school, there we went.
And do you remember going to school?
Oh, yeah.
Was it fun?
Yeah.
And what did you learn? Do you remember? Was it math?
Everything.
And
everything what the public school had, besides Hebrew.
So you learned Hebrew as well?
Yeah.
Got it. And so you belonged to a community where you were growing up. There was a community of people.
Oh my God. We had a big Jewish community. We had am großen Ring, the big synagogue where my mom went, everything. Then they had a little synagogue. They were more religious. They were the men went when they definite. We weren't allowed in.
So men would go and women weren't allowed to even go?
No, as a kid we weren't allowed to even. Well, I sneaked sometimes. I wanted to know what's going on. Oh my God, I never told my parents. And then we had a cheder. Yeah.
And a cheder is where kids went to school?
Well, the cheder, it was really for the Jews from the Ost.
So did you ever go to cheder?
I sneaked once.
Were you taught, when you were growing up, were you taught about Judaism? Did they teach you, outside of Hebrew, did you learn other things? as well?
In the regular school.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really regular school, yeah.
So you learned about the holidays, about everything.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And what did you do for summers? During the summer when you're off from school?
We were, I remember myself always went to, what you call it? Very, you send the kids.
Like a summer camp.
Summer camp.
Do you remember what that was like?
Oh, yeah. But there, it was mixed. It wasn't all Jewish.
So you had friends that weren't Jewish?
Yeah, a very close friend from school.
That you got along with nicely?
Yeah.
So for summer camp, was it something that you'd go away to? Or would you come home every day?
No, we stayed away for the summer there. 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing to do.
Yeah.
And it was in Germany?
Yeah.
That was in Germany as well.
I forgot the name of the town. I probably have it written someplace. I don't know.
What kind of work did your family do?
They were in business. They call it, what do you call it? Clothing.
They had a retail store?
Not a really so. They went from town to town, whatever you call it.
Selling?
Yes, selling.
Did you ever, is this is what your father did? This is what your father did? That was your father's work? Did your mother work with your father?
Yeah.
She did?
Yeah, always together. They always traveled together.
Wow.
And sometimes they came home in the middle of the night in order to come home. And you know, they had a big wagon, whatever you call it, to put everything on the wagon and drive home. Sometimes when I know they came, I went to the railroad already. And I waited till they come to pick them up.
So they would travel they would get a wagon to the train station.
Yeah.
And then travel by train to different parts of Germany.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that wagon, was that a motorized car or was that a horse and a horse and buggy?
Yeah, it was, what you call it, a big wagon, yeah.
With a horse?
No.
A motorized car?
Just, you know.
Did you ever have a chance to drive that?
What?
Did you ever drive that wagon?
Always when I went to pick them up, oh sure. Or when we were bad kids, we took it and put all the kids on to ride around. And then I was in trouble.
Do you have memories of being at home as a family together, celebrating holidays?
Every time. With my grandma. My grandma then was about 92, 91, 92. We always picked her up.
And she lived in Germany as well?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well,
close by, you know.
Did you spend a lot of time with her?
Oh yeah, I loved that because I liked to stay overnight to sleep with her because she had those big feathers bed.
What was her name?
Grandma's name, I think it was Bertha.
And was your grandfather alive as well?
No.
And this was...
She was a widow when she was about 43, she always said.
And this was your mother's mother or your father's mother?
My father's mother.
So when you celebrated holidays, she would come over and you would spend together as a family?
Well, they picked her up. I mean, you know, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good times.
Do you remember, I know that we celebrate holidays together and you always have all the blessings they're like part of who you are. So this must come from you being when you were young, saying all those prayers together and celebrating.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was always a big thing.
Now, so as far as going to school, you went to day school, and did you go to high school as well
Well, we had the kids went to the Jewish school. It was public school till they had to go to high school, right? Well, it wasn't no high school anymore at the Jewish school, but I personally, I had to go, I remember the town, whatever it is, a little bit outside from Boynton, what you call it? Oh my God. I'm going to remember whatever it is. And then when my brother went to England, but when my sister at the age had to go, they had to school at the Jewish cemetery.
So at a certain point in time, the Jews were not allowed to have a Hebrew school anymore.
No.
So they held the school, the Jewish school, at the Jewish cemetery.
Yeah.
And this was done in secret, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Because I figured no one would come to the cemetery to see what was going on.
Right.
So none of the Germans would come to the cemetery
Yeah.
to see that there was a school going on.
Right.
Did you go to school there as well? Did you go to school at the cemetery?
No, I finished school still at the Jewish school till I was 14, whatever.
And at 14, did you start to work then?
Well, then we still had, where I worked, Leipzig, they had a store, a ring, where they sold everything from baby carriage, to everything, till they gave it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, the people had to give it up because they put on the outside of the store already, they broke the glass, from the store, and they put down big Jude, whatever it is.
Are you referring to Kristallnacht?
What?
Are you referring to the night where all the glass was broken from all the Jewish stores?
Oh, yeah.
Kristallnacht.
Yeah.
Is that what you are referring to? So you worked in the store.
Yeah.
And the store was owned by Jewish people.
Oh yeah, they belonged to Jewish people. Yeah.
And you were a salesperson.
Right. And then when they came in and destroyed everything, they broke the glass from the store. They put down Jude all over, and that was the end of the Jewish business people.
So that was around November 9th and 10th in 1938.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we just celebrated, or we commemorated, the 75th year anniversary of that.
Yeah.
Now, before that, Grandma, what was the feeling like being a Jewish person where you lived?
Oh, before all the problems started, I loved it. We had 3 synagogues. That's what we called it. It's a big synagogue where my mother, my grandma, myself, everything is. Then they had, next to it, they were connected, where only the men went. Like my father was a Korean, and my brother had to be with him, and my uncles, whatever it is. And next to it was a Heder.
So at what point did you start to feel that the Jews were being bothered in where you lived?
Oh yeah. It started, I don't remember which year, whatever it was. But you had already the tension, you know, like something is going to happen before they broke the windows at the Jewish people and took the business away and whatever it is.
But before that, you were no longer allowed to go to Jewish school? Was that before that you couldn't go to Jewish, you had to go to school at the cemetery?
Well, the Jewish school started the cemetery. Oh my God, my head is not the same anymore. I graduated from school, figure this out.
Okay. You're born what year?
Right?
You're born in what year? 1920. So it's 1934, you're 14.
Okay. And my sister started already, but then the whole school where she went in, they had to go in the cemetery. Where they conducted classes.
Now, the place where you lived, were you allowed to live in the place that you lived? Or were you moved from there? The place that you lived, in your home, in your apartment,
yeah,
with your family, were you allowed to live there, or were you forced to move from there?
Well, originally where we went, my parents had to move to a section where they put all the Jewish people together. We used to live, let's say, in the Gartenstraße, and then all the Jewish people had to move out from their home, and they had something, am großen, this is what they called it, am großen Ring, where they put all the Jews more or less together.
Were these like an apartment house, a building?
Apartment house, it was, yeah.
And they just had Jews living in there?
Where I came from.
Where you were living, where you were moved to?
Or where I moved to.
Correct.
There's only the Jewish people.
Now the kids that you mentioned before, you had friends that weren't Jewish. Did you maintain that relationship?
No. No, we had no. They were afraid to be with us, and we were afraid they would do something to us if they see us with not Jewish people.
Do you remember what it was like to live in that new location?
Even.
Do you remember what it was like to live in that new area that you were moved to?
Well, because we were all together, like we were a big family, so it was easier for us kids not to be afraid, because we had still the backing from the family. So
you still were all together?
Yeah.
Now, when you were moved, were you still working in the store?
Wait a minute. When I moved from Boyden for the thing, no, then it was a time there were nothing for the younger people like me. We had to bring some income. The parents had no money anymore, did nothing. So I worked at Landsberg an der Warte. There were Jewish people, and they had a jewelry store. And they had 2 children, so I was with the children till they decided they want to go to Israel before everything happened. So I had to go back home. That was it.
So you actually went to a different town?
Oh yeah, Landsberg an der Warte, yeah.
How far was that from where you were living?
That is by train ride around between 6 and 8 hours.
And you were 15, around 15, 16 years old?
Figure this out, my head doesn't go.
Right, no, but
yeah.
So it must have been scary for you.
Yeah.
Do you remember that train ride? Do you remember that train ride going to that town?
Oh, it's the name of the town?
No, but do you remember going on that train?
Yeah.
You went alone.
Yeah. We had to, we grew up very fast as kids.
You had no choice.
Yeah.
After the famous night of all the broken glass, did things change? Was that a dramatic change at that point?
Then they broke the windows and glass.
Correct.
That's it. Most of the Jews, when they had connection and money, a lot of them went to Israel.
Right there and then, they left.
Yeah. They left everything, they went to Israel. Because the people I worked for as a kid, they had like children's carriage, toys, all those, whatever.
So they went to Palestine, not even Israel. It was
Yeah.
Palestine at that point. But it still was something that they thought and they were hoping would be a safe place to go to, as opposed to staying in where they were living.
But you see, with the people I worked for when they went to Israel, it was a small town, Landsberg an der Warthe. It was a small town. There were no more Jews left. They all went out. And I had to go back home.
So when you went back home, what was the mood? What was going on?
It was bad. It was bad because my father had to, was forced to go on the railroad. What do you call it? The railroad.
The tracks?
Tracks, right. They were the Jews, had to work, the guys, the men.
They would work on the tracks.
Yeah. It was my father, his brother, my uncle, another brother.
It must have been, and then what happened?
I have to say, where I went, oh, I know, because I had my aunt, it was my mother's sister, they lived in Berlin, and Berlin was a bigger city. So they sent me to my aunt, to Berlin. My brother was in England, so he had no problem, because the last children transport he was on, they went to England, and he grew up in England.
So he left and he grew up in England on his own?
Yeah.
Or with a family?
No, only children went there. A group of children supervised naturally.
And you were living in Berlin at that point?
And I lived in Berlin with my aunt and uncle, right? That was, I don't know if you remember Jerry and Ellen. It was Jerry's parents.
Mm-hmm.
Till everything fell apart, so.
While you were living in Berlin, if you wanted to speak to your parents...
We had no telephone. It was only in writing.
So you'd write a letter?
Right.
And did they write letters to you?
Pardon me?
Did you get letters from them as well?
Oh, yeah. They came late, but we had no other communication.
So what happened after you living in Berlin?
Well, I lived with my aunt and uncle. My aunt was my mother's sister. And my cousin Jerry, he is the only survivor. So we were always in his house, right? And one of those days, I tell Jerry and Ellen, to come over to me. We're going to get together and she's going to tell you the whole story. But, you know, who survived, who not survived. So nobody survived.
So you're living in Berlin, and at what point did you meet your husband? You met him in Berlin?
That was, in a way, a happy story. I had to walk by Siemens. I mean, all the Jewish people. I walked by Siemens, and across from the factory, there was a cafe house where they assigned, where we can meet once a week, all the Jewish people in this particular cafe house, whatever it is. This is how I met my husband, through my uncle. It was very funny. I lived with my aunt and uncle already. That was Jerry's parents. And one day, I have to tell you exactly how it happened. One day, my uncle had to go to the bathroom. There were only Jewish people in this particular cafe house. And he came from the bathroom with another person. It was my husband then. So he introduced everybody. He said, "Oh, meet somebody with whom I walked a long time already." It was a lie, naturally. So after everything, when everybody was ready to go home, my aunt said to, his name was Heinz then, he said, "Would you like to come join us home?" And naturally, do you remember him?
I didn't have the pleasure of meeting him.
He was one of those happy-go-lucky nature. He said, "Sure." This is how we ended up together.
How old were you? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I was 20.
So you're 20, and now you were working, you said at Siemens, at the electronic company? You're working at Siemens, the electronic. It's a, do you remember what you were doing there?
Oh yeah, believe me, I know. I walked on the machine with my whole body, right? It was something, and with oil, I had to, whatever had to be done, it was a small pieces, and the oil was on the pieces and had to be cleaned up. And one day, it splashed over my left foot. And the minute it splashed, my whole skin went off. So they sent me home, and I was so happy. But once they assigned me a doctor, and when it got a little better, they sent me back to another factory, but not outside. It was in Berlin City. So.
What kind of factory was that? What kind of factory was that?
The second time they worked, it was like for typewriters, what you call it?
The ribbon?
No, the number or the letter had to be on the machine cleaned up, each individual, and then it was with oil.
Again, go ahead.
And the oil went over my foot. This is how my whole skin went off. My whole skin just went off, and a part of my hand. So they sent me to the doctor. So I think it was like 4 or 6 weeks I couldn't go to work.
Now, this job was only for Jews?
Yeah.
So everyone working in this particular area were all Jewish?
No, only Jews.
And were you paid? Did they pay you to work?
Yeah, they paid, I believe, 18 mark a week, or it is something like this a week or a month. I know it was 18 mark, so.
Understood. So you've met your Henry,
Yeah,
your future husband. You met
right.
him in the cafe, and then what was that like? What you dated for a little bit?
Well, I will never forget, it was August, to the end of August. So my aunt and my uncle, that was Jerry who lived here, his parents, um, they said, why don't you come with us, okay, to be all together. He did, but he went home. So and he said to me, he said, you know what, one of those days I'm going to come and say hello to you. But he came already next day or next day and next day. And before we turned out, it was 3 months we got married. So we got married with a Jewish rabbi who had 3 children I will never forget. We had his wedding. He made a huppah for us, everything. And next day, somebody found out in the building that he had a wedding. So what they did to, they picked him up with all his 3 kids next day already. And I told then my husband, I said, you know what, I will never survive this. I felt so bad.
Do you remember the rabbi's name?
I have at home.
Okay. It must have been a festive time when you got married.
What?
It must have been very festive and fun to get married.
Oh yeah.
So
He
now,
was such a good person, Sarah.
so now you're married, and is he living now? You now are living in Berlin.
Right, with my uncle who's here, Jerry Margaret's parents. It was, my aunt was a sister of my mother, so.
So you're all living together now in Berlin.
Yeah,
And your husband is working as well?
yeah.
Where's he working?
It's a Jewish factory. When we went together, his work was just before mine. I had another 2 stations before I get out.
So you'd go to work every day by train?
Yeah. 5:30 in the morning, I will never forget.
You left every day, 5:30?
Yeah.
And you'd come home, what time?
Not always, because sometimes either I had to stay or he had to stay.
But you would live together in Berlin.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Okay, let me think. What happened? 19. Well, then that was before the big action where they picked all the Jews up, right? Because I had a friend, she was not Jewish, and she told me, she said, Margaret, tell everybody tomorrow is a big day where they pick up from the factories all the Jewish men and women, right? And I made sure the world goes around, right? Well, I stayed home, and my husband said, you cannot trust everybody, but they say naturally. It was true, so they picked him up, and then I got crazy because we didn't know what's going on, where he is. Well, I know where he went because he went. They assembled the Jewish people at the Jewish place, Oranienburgstraße, or whatever it was, okay? And I wanted to bring something else out. All right, you asked me.
No, you can, whatever you like.
Yeah,
So you said that your husband was picked up from work,
yeah.
and
He was picked in, right, okay. And then I got a letter, but all the Jews in Berlin, where they assembly everybody. I think it was the Oranienburgstraße, I think, so far I remember. So he sent a letter to me not to move because he's going to escape. But I got the wrong message. They said to come to him. And you know what? This is why I always believe in miracle, because I took, Danny was then in the carriage. I went
so you had
to the
you had a baby
car.
boy at that point.
Yeah. I went to the trolley car and an air raid came and everybody had to stop. So you know what? I don't know what made me do, because I took the baby with the carriage. I ran back where I used to live in hiding then, and thank God for this, because pretty soon my husband then escaped from the place. So we were together for a while, and then we found a place with somebody where we were hiding.
So at that point, if you were Jewish, you couldn't be in the street?
No.
And if you were in the street, what would happen?
They had to wear the star.
Is that the star that you have next to you? Is that?
Yeah.
Why don't you hold that up for a minute?
Yeah.
So you wore this star.
I never wore the star. I had it always with me, because you never know. Well, there's another big story. When the air raids were getting bigger and bigger. I mean, the American or the Russian, whoever was there. I was living in hiding already with my husband, whatever. But all the guys, like my husband's brother, the youngest one is still living, they went all in the subway. And then they had to be careful because no Jewish men were around anymore. So if they needed to identification, I had no idea what they would have done. Then there was an air raid, and I had Danny already. So I went just on my own, wherever we lived in hiding. I took the carriage, nobody on the street, only from upstairs, what you call the air raid, right? And I went just through the street till they caught me. The streets were empty, empty. Somebody come, and I was crying, and he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "My family," and they don't know I was Jewish. I was not from Berlin anyway, and I had never identification with me. So he said, "So where are you going now?" I said, "My son is downstairs in the subway where everybody is." They were nice enough to accompany me to the subway station. They let me go down, right? And the streets are empty, the airplanes are flying, so whatever it is, but in the meantime I was safe. So I saw my husband already in the corner. So he made that sign not to say anything or be connected with anybody, so whatever.
Now, the men that helped you, they were Nazi soldiers?
What?
The people that stopped you in the street with the carriage?
They were German soldiers.
They were German soldiers.
Sure.
Now, what happened to your grandmother?
Oh, wait a minute. My grandma, she was my father's mom. You know what? It's a good question. Where did they all go? I have a blank right now.
I think you once mentioned to me that she was taken away.
Who?
Your grandmother.
I have to.
We'll come back to that. So, it must have been very scary, Grandma, to be walking in the streets.
Oh, gee.
Firstly, forgetting about the fact that there were air raids, that would have killed you.
But you know what? If anybody is thrown in a situation, you deal with it. You know what? I can't explain, but you deal with it
With the situation at hand.
Special, a situation. You're lucky, you're lucky. You're not lucky, you're not lucky. So.
But here you are, a young mother with a small baby. Danny is 3 years old, 2 years old?
Danny was already, 3.
And you've got air raids. You're living in hiding. What would happen if he started to cry while you're in hiding?
If they would caught me, I had no identification. But they were generalists with women and children. They don't know I was Jewish. So there's only one time I was scared to death. Danny had the measles, and it was an air raid, and we had to go to the shelter because there's always somebody in the house to make sure that nobody is left behind. So, and then he had, from the measles or whatever, that's all over. Oh my God, the women got crazy. He said, what happened to your son? He said, I don't know, he got such a rush all of a sudden. That must be, maybe I gave him something, but they don't know.
So they were scared and you were scared.
Yeah.
Did you take him to the hospital?
Oh no, forget about it. Well, we had the Jewish hospital, but you couldn't trust nobody. You couldn't trust nobody.
Because if you went, they would.
That's right. We took always our chance, so.
Now,
you know what, something, it's like so clear, like it happened today. And there's a period where you're not 100% sure how it happened.
Well, it is many years later, so it's difficult to remember everything. Now, you mentioned before that, to me while we were talking, that you were hidden by Mrs. Khan.
By Khan? Oh yeah. When we got married, my mother and father, they came down from Boynton, and that was very dangerous because my mother had no identification, and she had a full suitcase with chicken, not cooked. They wanted to cook it for our marriage.
For your wedding?
Oh, for our wedding. Oh, I'll never forget. And we didn't know if it was smelling or not smelling. Everybody ate it and it was okay.
So where did Mrs. Khan? Where did
Mrs. Khan? I saw this apartment like today. She took us. She took another guy who passed away before they picked him up. And what happened? They picked her up. I know exactly how this happened. They picked her up, and then we're all by ourselves in the apartment. And then we had the neighbor there who were not Jewish. So one day they knocked on our door, and he said, "Are you okay?" They know we were Jewish, right? I just prayed, I just told my husband, just pray she shouldn't send somebody up to pick us up. So, but she didn't. So.
Now, Mrs. Khan wasn't Jewish either.
Mrs. Khan was Jewish.
She was Jewish.
Yeah.
And she was hiding you in her apartment.
She was hiding us, another guy, and another couple.
When you say us, it was you and your husband and your son.
Yeah.
And then she got picked up.
Amen.
And then she got picked up and taken away.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how, and I don't know where we were.
What happened to your parents?
My parents, all the Jews in Brighton, where I came from, all who belonged to the temples. There was a big temple that we belonged to. There was a smaller one, more or less, because my father was a Kohen, so it was there, and next door was a Haida, right? They assembled all the Jews on the big, they call it the big ring. On the big ring, that was a big place. And this is how they took all the Jews for Brighton. They put in what do you call it, in those big cars, those big...
Cattle cars or train? Was it a train?
No, where they picked the Jews up off of Brighton, what do you call it, those big cars.
Like a truck.
The truck, right.
And you weren't there. You didn't see that.
No. I was with my aunt already in Berlin.
And your parents, do you know where your parents were taken?
Oh yeah. I have to show you one day. I have a postcard. I don't know if I ever gave it to you. They threw out from Pocono. I will never forget. I give you, if you want to keep it as a history, I have to give it to somebody.
I would love to. Thank you.
I give you the postcard. It's in German, where they throw it out, but somebody mailed it. So
now this was a postcard that your family had written to you?
Yeah, my father wrote to me, and they said they picked up all the Jews, and he said, Grandma is with us, and she is in good health. But you're going to remind me, I'm going to make myself a note. I'm going to leave it for you, as somebody has to have it.
So actually your grandma was taken away with your father and your mother.
Grandma was then 92.
And they were taken to a camp?
Yeah.
Do you know which camp?
Yeah, because my father wrote exactly where they are. And I don't know, I think I wrote it on the postcard where they mailed it. Somebody said they know where it is, so I wrote it down. One of these, you can look it up, whatever it is.
So that's what happened to your parents and your grandma. One of your brothers was in England, and your brother Zali?
Sally and my sister Barbara was with them.
They were with them as well.
Yeah, because my brother Al, he was already in England with the children, let's children transport.
So let's go back to Berlin. You're in Berlin now, and you're hiding.
Right. But that was already when I got married.
Right. Now, and you're in Berlin, you're hiding, you have a son. His name is Danny. You have your husband, and there are air raids and so on. So what is going on at that point?
Oh, well, I think I told you the story with the air raid. This certain things you will never forget it just in front of you like it happened. Well, the message my husband wrote was incorrect. Who gave it to me? It should have said, stay, I come back, right? Because he wanted to escape, where they picked him up in a Sammelstrasse with all the Jews, right? but the message was wrong. This is how I ended up. It's a train, not the train,
The trolley.
the trolley, right. And you see, you never know in life what happened. If the trolley wouldn't have stopped, I would have been gone and he would have been there alone.
And you wouldn't have seen each other.
There. Everything, we always talked about it. It was like a miracle that,
So at one point, you stayed in Berlin until the war was over?
I think everybody talked about it. See, my husband was from Berlin, so he had a lot of friends whom he could trust because they know he was Jewish, so at least he got some information what's going on. So.
And you started to hear that the war was going to end? Is that what you were hearing?
I have no idea how this all happened that we knew. Right now, I really don't remember.
So the war ends, and you're still in Germany.
Oh, yeah.
And this is 1945?
45, I think, whatever. Well, after we were free, everybody was free. Because my husband knew Berlin in and out because he was born there. His Jerry Bigel's brother, he survived. He walked from the concentration camp to my aunt's house in Berlin, she was a sister of my mother, but she had not a Jewish husband, and he was nice enough never to reveal it, that his wife was Jewish. Through her, this is how my cousin Bill, it was Jerry's brother, Jerry Bigel's brother. We got a lot of news because a lot of people walked from the concentration on foot. A lot of people collapsed, whatever it is. So my aunt, who was my mother's sister, she had not a Jewish husband, right? But he was very good. So one day he came wherever I lived, and he said, "You have to come tomorrow to my house." And then I said to my husband, "Can we trust him?" And we had no other choice because he was present. "You must come. You promised you must come." So we promised, we came. You know who was there? Jerry Bigel's brother. He was there. He escaped the next minute before the war was over, and he walked. He walked and he walked and he walked. Whatever that somebody picked him up, and he ended up in my aunt's house. How, we never knew. So.
Wow. Did you have use of a radio? Could you listen to the radio?
Radio? Well, I didn't. I don't know, somebody must have. Well, my aunt had. In the news, I have no idea anymore.
But people had radios and listened to the radios. If they had one, they would be listening to what was going on.
But not the Jewish people.
Not the Jewish
yeah.
people. So the war ends and you're living in Berlin.
Right.
Was it one day to the next where one day you're in hiding and the next day you're able to walk in the street without anyone trying to kill you? Was it that?
You see, where we on the end lived, I don't know, not me, but the guys, it was my husband, it wasn't Jerry, it was Jerry's brother and somebody else. They just went into the people, right, and they threw them out. They said you were Nazis, we all came from the same, they just threw the people out and we all moved in.
So this was a German law? So the law was that after the war, if someone had taken someone else's apartment, you could go back and throw them out of your apartments.
This is what they did.
And
not only this, because the town where they took the house, it was a town where they had a big, where they had cows and everything, what you call it?
A farm.
A farm, right. They went even to the farmer, those guys. They went to the farmer, threw the farmer out, and took whatever they wanted. They walked with a cow, come to the house where we took a cow, could you believe it?
They brought a cow to the house.
Yeah, and chicken and everything. And then one of the guys who was a survivor also, he went in and had from the farmer a big, what you call it? Not a cow, yeah, a cow. And they went to have him slaughtered. And they gave, to friends, whatever they did. Well, they came and had those raw meat and all. I told them this, I said, do you think I'm going to cook for everybody, those cook? I said, if you want to cook, be my guest. I don't know what to do with it. But they did cook. We were like, and then my son Danny, oh my God. We were hysterical, not only this, we were frightened, we couldn't find him. He was so involved in us. And they had a big trees, cherry and whatever it is, right? We found him under a cherry tree. Was he sick because they had the sour cherries and he was eating it? Oh, God. Certain things, you just see it like it is right now.
So Danny was, when you left Germany, how old was he?
Danny was born 41, so he was around 4 o'clock for 4 years or so. Yeah.
4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
So he's a big boy. He was a big kid.
Yeah.
So
he was a big kid, but good, because all we did all the years to put the hand over the mouth, I said, no talking, nothing, quiet.
And he listened.
Yeah, he had to.
So after the war, people were able to go back, at least to some homes, and take their own property back, or take.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
No more German soldiers in the streets anymore.
No more, not only this, but when we, in the minute, well, they opened up a Jewish agency, right after the war. And my husband knew Berlin in and out. Jerry's brother, my husband, and I think it was somebody else, they went to the Jewish agency. They wanted to find out what's going on, and so what they did, till they found out there is a place going to America. I will never forget, my husband came in because he was a joker. He said, come on, we go to America. I said, yeah, sure. I said, but I do something to drink.
You thought he was drunk.
Yeah. Oh my God. They always, because we took the house, we had plenty room to everybody was by us, so.
So your husband had gone to the Jewish agency and decided that the right thing to do was to move to America.
So we came, well, I wasn't, my husband was always in the city. It's a Jewish agency. It was a couple of months, or whatever it is, they talked about it going to America, right? Till he finally convinced me that it is true, that that people are going. Well, they interviewed all the people like us because they wanted to know if our story is exactly right. In the meantime, they had all the information, right? So, but they didn't tell us. Later on, somebody told us that they had all the information. So we were the third ship to go.
Did you know anyone that lived in America?
No, we came as as a group.
But you
and
knew no
where
one.
we ended up on Broadway 103 or 106, Hotel Marseille. They opened up for us, for the refugees to have.
So you were you excited to go to America?
Excited.
Were you?
Yeah, we were all excited.
You felt.
I mean, we didn't have to stay in New York. They gave us a lot of options. We could have gone to Chicago, wherever we wanted. And I told my husband, I want to stay here. I want to stay in New York. So, oh my God, there's so many. If you go back, something is like it just happened now. And sometimes there's something not 100% anymore, your brain.
Like for all of us.
Yeah.
Had you ever been out of Germany? Had you ever left Germany before you went on the trip to the United States?
No, not in Germany, to a different town, but no, out of Germany, no.
So this was your first time on a ship?
Yeah.
And what was that like?
Remember, I was so sick. I was the sickest person on the whole trip. I don't remember anything. I couldn't even take care of Danny.
Because you were nauseous.
I was sick, seasick.
And once you get seasick, it's hard to get unseasick. How long was the journey? Do you know?
I think it was around 8 or 10 days. It was, yeah. Yeah. Little things, you remember.
And you arrived where, Grandma? Where did you arrive?
Even.
Where did you arrive?
Hotel Marseille.
No, but did you arrive at Ellis Island? Did you come to Ellis Island?
No, we came straight to New York.
And so the boat docked in New York City?
In Hotel Marseille, 106 3rd Street and Broadway, yeah. I will never forget, they had a fruit store from the hotel where it is on the corner. And when I took Danny out, we never had a banana in years. So I said, Danny, you feel like Aaron, you're going to like it, a banana. He didn't know it has to be peeled, so the first bite was with the skin.
How do you feel about Germans today?
I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less what happened there, whatever. I would ever never go back.
You would never go back to Germany?
Never.
And you've never ever been back?
Pardon me?
Have you ever been back?
We went back one time after the war. They took, I don't know how many people we were. I think they took transport close to 100 people. We went back for a week. But really, nobody with the whole heart went back. And I don't know why we went back. I have no idea anymore.
You went back as part to just to go back to your home and see where you grew up? What was, do you remember why you went back?
I don't care, because I personally couldn't care because I wasn't born there. I had bad memories, but my husband was a good sport. So we went back. We were happy to come back.
How do you feel about German people?
I didn't have much contact with them, honestly. I was still young. I walked only with people, Jewish people.
How do you feel when you hear about people that deny that the Holocaust existed?
I could kill them.
So, when you hear like a...
I never had a chance to talk or got involved with somebody who believes that it didn't happen, so because I would have been in a very bad situation. I would have opened my mouth.
I know, Mel Gibson, who's an actor, his father is very much, they call him a revisionist. And he's looking to revise history to say that the Holocaust never existed.
I know.
So he's the type of guy you'd want to kill.
You know what they should do with people? To do the same what they did with all of us. Take them all together and create something and went through the way we went through. They will change their mind fast.
How were you able to keep your hope so strong?
Well, with all of us, without hope, what's there? There's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We need hope for a better future.
What was it like or have you had the experience, either in Germany or when you moved to New York, to see people that you had grown up with, that you didn't have contact, and now you met them again? Did you have that type of experience?
Okay, I didn't 100%, but...
Well, when, let's say you had a friend growing up, or a relative,
yeah,
and because of the war you were separated,
yeah,
and now you got a chance to see them again,
yeah,
or you didn't even know that they were alive and had a chance to see them. Well, did you have that experience?
My mother had a sister, my Aunt Paulette. They had no children. She was married. They were just involved among themselves. They felt sorry what happened to all of us, but it was no heart in it. So.
And they lived where?
They used to live on Broadway, I think around 80th Street. My Aunt Paulette.
After you moved to America, that was in 1946.
So they gave us, in Hotel Marseille, they gave us choices, all of us. We could have stayed in New York. We could have gone to Chicago. I forgot. It's about four places we could have gone. So I talked with my husband, and he said, "How do you feel?" He said, "Whatever." He talked to me, "Whatever you feel like it, you're going to do." I said, "I would love to stay in New York." Reason? No reason. I just loved it.
So you stayed in New York,
Yeah.
and then what did you do then?
Well, we personally didn't take because they took care of everybody. They gave them food stamps, everything. But my husband and I, we decided we needed something. So there were people who came to interview people who need help. So we took, the name was Prop. We took the job, it was in Margaret. I believe 888, I believe the number was, to be with them when they traveled, they had 2 children, and they had to take care of the house. My husband was handy, so it was a garden. I mean, there's plenty to do or repair, but believe it or not, in one way they had the chutzpah. Now, I think, after a week, to leave us alone with the kids and the house and no language or no nothing, they went away for a week.
And you spoke German?
She talked German. Yeah. She said, "We have to go away. You have to take care of everything."
I guess they must have trusted you.
Yeah.
So you did that for a while?
Yeah. It wasn't even a year. My husband wasn't happy anymore, and I wanted not the rest of my life to take care of the kids, and so we went to I told my aunt to find us a little apartment, and it was a lot of money because then $80 was a lot of money. So, but we did it. She found us something in the 3rd floor. There were only 3 floors. 3, 4, a little apartment where they had a kitchen, a kitchenette in the dining room, whatever. But we were happy there, so.
And that was in Manhattan? That was in Manhattan?
Yeah.
And then Danny went to school in Manhattan?
Yeah. Then he went to school in Manhattan. And I started to work at the Jewish Home and Hospital there. It's such a lifetime ago. You need a good head to remember some things.
Yeah, no, you're doing a great job remembering. Your husband then worked in a building, right? Didn't he?
Yeah.
He ran a building?
106th Street. He started out on a smaller scale to take care, and we had an apartment. And then he didn't like it. He said, "I'm looking for something where we don't have to pay rent," and he's taking care of the building. This is why he started 106th Street. There were 20 stories, something like this, right?
It's a big building.
Oh, yeah. He loved it. He loved people. He was happy to be outside and, just to chatter, with people. We had good years there. And I started as a school crossing guard. It was a pain in the neck. 2 hours, come back, stay home, go back for another hour. But it was around the corner, so it wasn't so bad.
So you did that in the streets of Manhattan?
Everything for money. Oh, I was a head checker in the German section.
Where was this? In New York?
86th Street.
On the east side.
Even?
On the east side of it. On the east side,
Yeah,
86th
yeah.
Street. This is a big German area.
Yeah. I didn't make much money.
Did anyone? I mean, going back for a second, while you're living in Germany, did anyone talk about leaving Germany? Did any of your family say, "Why don't we leave"?
Why we left?
Was there any? Did anyone talk about? You know, they saw a little bit what was going on.
Yeah.
Did anyone want to leave? I know that your brother, he went to England.
No.
But your brother Armin went to England, correct?
He went?
Armin.
Yeah.
He went to England.
Yeah. He went to England. I could have gone too.
You could have gone with him.
As with the children transport, that was a children transport. I wouldn't have left my parents for nothing. I didn't know eventually we would have been separated. So.
And Armin was a little bit older, but they pushed him to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. He was with the children transport. He came out okay from England. They gave him a good education.
And he lives not far from you, so you see him occasionally now as well. Can you repeat that story?
I said, in the building where we used to live, sometimes I personally had it on where I can take it off and go someplace. But there was a little boy who was about 10, 11 years old. I don't know if he's always waiting for me. It always happens when I'm out that he's there. And he said, "Let me see if you have it on." But you know what? I had it on with a safety pin, so I can take it off. Oh boy, he was bad. He was so bad, he would report at me right away.
He was a German boy.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet any of the troops, like Allied troops, after Germany, after the war was over? Did you meet American troops in Germany?
I personally didn't. I probably my husband because he was all over. Yeah. He was a really boy from Berlin, so he knows all the trick. He knew all the trick, where to go, what to do, whatever.
Did you?
One day, we had the husband. This was before we got married. There was a Schloss Sanssouci, right, where they assembly groups, and then they go inside and explain about, what do you call a Schloss? Yeah, Schloss Sanssouci. It's like a place, a big place, like an historic place. So, right. Oh my God, I will never forget. We were there both, among them. I still have a picture, somehow, I have to look for it, where he is, where we stay on the corner there. But I was a little bit in hiding. He was from Berlin, I wasn't from Berlin, so for me it was a little bit easier to get around, but always afraid, so. But on the end, it was okay. Nobody caught us, nothing. You know what it is? Because when we went into the Schloss, this is more or less in the beginning when we met. He wanted to show me, Berlin, whatever it is. So I didn't know then. Because when we were on the other end, he said to me, you know what, don't move. I have a friend in the front. I tell him just to give me the ticket. But later on found out he paid for the guys to give us a ticket.
So you went to this historical museum, the Schlagsusi?
Yeah,
with
plus
him.
it's a big, yeah. And I wasn't from Berlin, so you know what, it was a famous road, yeah. And they had visited certain days probably, or whatever it is. I still have a picture. I got back. If the head would be okay to remember a lot of little things. One time he was in the mall, not far where we used to live, and somebody recognized him, and he went after him. So he was faster than they. He knocked on the door, I opened the door, he collapsed. I said, what happened? He said, somebody was after me. You know, to get him.
Right. I mean, you lived like this for many years, didn't you? How many years did you live like that? With that fear?
How many years to live?
How many years did you live in Germany with that fear? With the fear of being caught as a Jew?
Well, I went in Berlin. I went to my aunt. That was Jerry Weigel's parents. It was I think it was 1939. Right. Because first my brother lived with them, then he went with the children transport to England. Then I lived with them till we all got away, right? This is where Jerry, we grew up together. It was my mother's sister.
So you lived with this kind of fear for 5-6 years.
Oh, sure, yeah. But you know what? I always say, even today, if you are drawn in a situation, you deal right now with the situation. You cannot think what's going to happen or why it happened. You just deal from day to day.
But that's because of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, many others, it's hard to deal.
Yeah.
You know, you're a very positive, strong woman and a example for all of us.
Yeah.
Are there any kind of other messages or anything you want to just share, outside of having courage and strength that you have and positiveness? You're always positive.
If I would have known in my head, I would have wrote something down. Maybe I shouldn't forget.
Well, we can always take more, Grandma. That's okay. But it was important, and I appreciate that you gave us the time to sit and share,
From generation to generation.
Right. Memories, and some difficult memories. But we're happy that you're here. I'm going to bring the boys in for a minute. Grandma is blessed with 2 boys, 2 sons, with grandchildren, 3 grandchildren, and
Great-grandchildren.
3 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. Jill, why don't you sit down? Here's one of her granddaughters.
Oh, come on. Okay.
And these are our kids. Come sit down, guys. her great grandkids.
Okay,
Love
where's
you,
the little
Grandma.
one?
He's over
There.
there.
We love you, Grandma. Love you.